Hello and welcome to Throttle Up. Honestly, I would be lying if I said that I did not want to review the Hyundai Verna earlier. I wanted to. But I could not wrap my mind around the design, which I think most of us still haven't been able to. The reason that it's unlike anything other that we are seeing on the market even currently. And it's okay to feel nostalgic about the fluidic design of Hyundai cars, and it's okay to not be willing to accept the change in the first place. But still, even if you are very open minded about having new designs, it still is very unconventional. Some days I like it, some days I don't, and I think most of us would have the same reaction the very first time we saw this car, and have been having the same reaction since the launch of the new Hyundai Verna. And on the days you are willing to accept the quirks of this car, you realize that the new Hyundai Verna has a lot to offer. But before jumping onto the review, I have to thank the very cordial staff and very nice sales managers at the Berkeley Hyundai Zirakpur for providing me the opportunity to review this car and giving me the car in impeccable condition. So please visit Berkeley Zirakpur if you're interested in any of the Hyundai cars, because the staff is very kind and will guide you through all the features and all the offers for any of the cars that you would be interested in. I've dropped the details for them in the description of this video. Now let's get back to the review. The front profile first. Just look at it. The first thing that I noticed is that there is no differentiation between the front grille and the air dam, just like in a regular car, because this is no regular car. Just look at the design. It feels like something out of the Tron movie. There's many straight lines, as you can see right here, and there's a Hyundai logo which is on the bonnet instead of the front grille, which is usually the case, because again there is no grille. Now this is how the LED DRL looks like, which runs from end to end. Usually when we look at DRLs, they are mainly connected through a chrome strip, but this is a complete DRL, and as a result the headlamp seems a little bit ignored with the turn indicator, of course, because they are positioned much below than they should be, because that LED DRL seems like it's the main headlamp. Again, it's different, it's not wrong, it's just different. The grille is nicely designed. I like that shark fin treatment that they have given, and it does come with front parking sensors and cameras, because this is the SX optional variant, so this is the topmost variant for enhanced experience of the Hyundai driving experience, as it's written on the door. You get a very nicely done sloping roofline which makes the side profile. I love the side profile. This is the only profile which did not make me doubt for a second that this car does not look good. It looks really nice from the side. It might feel over designed to some, but to me it just is so striking. You see that cuts on the door, there is a cut on the C-pillar, and obviously the sloping roofline, just like I mentioned. Just look at the cuts and the creases, and the usage of chrome is there. This chrome handle is not really chrome because it has a matte finish to it. It just feels nicely done. It has a good finish overall. You get body colored ORVMs with turn indicators, and this is a 205 55 R 16-inch wheel, which obviously does get the dual tone machine cut alloy wheel, because again this is a topmost variant of a Hyundai car, so it has to be feature rich in every sense of the word. Talking about the rear profile now, I would say that things get interesting, but exactly to the right limit, because it feels good. And when I show you the lit up format of that tail lamp, it will genuinely feel nice. You get the spoiler and the defogger in the glass pane, you get the shark fin antenna. There's a very nicely done cut to the overall tailgate, and that's a Hyundai logo, and the Verna is written inside that tail lamp, which is very nicely done, and there are no stuck logos or letters of the Verna, so that's nice. You get this treatment of boomerang shape of sorts for the connected lamp treatment. There are so many dots and so many design elements within the tail lamp, so just there are dot, and then there's the lamp which is connected, and then there are crystal design of sorts for the main tail lamp. So I'll just show you how that crystal design looks when the tail lamp is lit up, and just look at it. It looks so premium, so nicely done. This is the tail lamp, main tail lamp, and this is the another format of the tail lamp. It looks so nicely done, amazingly nice, and that's obviously the brake light. But the miss is that you get turn indicators and reverse lamps as halogen. Why would you do that? Why it's so, the tail lamp is genuinely good to look at, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen before, and it's genuinely nice. The amount of innovation and the modernistic approach that they have brought to this design is unparalleled. The same crystal design also goes to the rear bumper. If you notice that gloss black treatment that they have done, there is a exhaust right on the right, but you also get the rear parking sensor and the rear parking camera and all of that jazz, but there's no fake exhaust treatment. And now let's open the tailgate. It gets the electromagnetic button, simple, but it gets a smart feature, so you get You can open it through the key or the IoT function with the connected car tag. You get a halogen lamp right there, and this boot space is one of the best in its segment. But I think Honda City still leads it by few liters here and there. But the miss again is that the fifth wheel is a size smaller than the other four wheels, and it's also not an alloy. So this is an R15 incher. That's weird. At least they should have given the same size for the topmost variant. An alloy could have also been there, but at least the same size could have been just. That's at least something that I expected. Now let's get to the interior of the car, where things get interesting but still familiar to what we have seen in other cars, and it gets a lot of space now. It is very different from what we have seen in the previous Hyundai Vernas. Now coming to the door pad, there's a lot of hard plastics on offer, but you still get soft treatment. This is hard plastic, don't be mistaken by the feel that you might be seeing on camera. This is nicely done. You get dual tone shade with white and black, nicely finished grab door handles. You get a Bose speaker setup because this is the SX optional variant, so you get an 8 speaker setup, 4 tweeters and 4 speakers, and it feels generally nice to hear when you are playing songs on the Bose setup. Now this is what the interior treatment gets you. You get white beigeish interior for the entire cabin, because this is not the turbo petrols. We have the black interior, but this is the naturally aspirated 1.5 petrol, so that is why you get white interior. Now the thigh support is genuinely great. The space has increased by a lot if we compare it to the previous generation of the Hyundai Verna. It's at par with the City, and it's definitely higher than the Skoda and the Virtus of the world. You get 2 headrests, but the third passenger might not have head, so that's why they have not given the third headrest. There is also an option for the rear sun blind, which I'll show you in just a bit. You get grab handles, obviously. There's good enough airiness because you also get a sunroof, and the window line is relatively lower. You get a center armrest with 2 cup holders, so nothing new and something that I definitely expected out of a car which almost will cost you around 20 to 21 lakh rupees on road. And the overall experience in the seat is good. The contouring is nice, and there's no hump on for the third passenger, so that's also nice. But there's a little hump on the floor. You get 2 AC vents in a very common normal Hyundai fashion. There's some space to keep your stuff, and there are 2 Type-C USB sockets, which is a really nice thing, because all the phones are now getting USB Type-C cables, even the iPhone 15s now. So yeah, and that's how the interior looks like. I am not a fan, if you ask me, but yes, we'll talk about that in just a bit. The sunroof that you get in the Verna is not panoramic. It's a simple sunroof with manual sun blinds, and the problem is that because the glass pane, when it opens, it takes up a lot of space in the roof lines, so it eats up the space till here almost. It does not still cause a problem in the headroom because your head is with the headrests and it's a little behind, so that's okay. You get 2 magazine holders on both the sides, and you get this piping on the front seats, which looks really nice and premium. I'll show you that in just a bit when we move to the cockpit. But yes, the rear seat experience is definitely a thumbs up from my side, because you get a lot of room, you get the features that you would want, and the cushioning is nice, the bolstering is nice, so a good experience and a comfortable one at that. Now for the front door pads, you get hard plastics here. This is the thumb fingerprint magnet. You get white plastics and leather treatment in the topmost variant. The speaker setup, the design is very okayish. This is, as I said, a fingerprint magnet. This will get dirty very easily if you do not maintain it. Now for the adjustability for the driver side seat, you get partial electric and partial manual. So height adjust is manual, but this for the lumbar support and the position and the recline, you can have it electrically adjustable, but that's only for the SX optional. So yeah, you have to upgrade to the topmost variant, and this is the CVT, so you get 2 pedals with a dead pedal, proper dedicated one at that. Headlight leveler, traction control, better auto start stop label, that's the engine start stop button, and that's a white leather soft touch treatment that you definitely specifically get in the SX optional variant. Now let's get into the interior of the car. Now there are things which impresses me in this interior, there are things which do not, and I'll tell you. This slanting bit is nice because everything feels positioned towards the driver. So for the driver it might feel nice, but if you're seated on the co-driver side seat, you will just feel a little bit alienated and a little bit weirded out, because why is nothing facing you? So that's a problem. You get buttons which have gloss black and silver treatment, so you get a very nice touch. The third spoke is missing, which does feel like a problem to me specifically. After turning on the ignition relay, it's a very cliched instrument cluster that we have seen in so many Hyundai cars at this point. You get the infotainment and controls on the right side, and the MID and the ADAS suite and the cruise control on the left side, which is a little different to what we have seen in other cars of Hyundai. Now this is how you can control the MID. This is to basically operate the MID yet again. For this is for the cruise control, and the other two buttons are for the ADAS suite, which is only restricted to either the naturally aspirated SX optional CVT or both the turbo petrol manual or the automatic. You get paddle shifters because it's a CVT, and you get auto headlamps and the wiper stocks right there. You get the fuel gauge and the temperature gauge and the very cliched digital format for the instrument cluster, which I personally do not like at all because there's no analog look and feel to it, which we have seen in the cars like Alcazar or even the Kia Seltos, the newer one. If you're buying the topmost variant of the Hyundai Verna, you would be actually rather disappointed with that instrument cluster, because that gloss black finish which houses the infotainment system and the instrument cluster is just sticking out. The glass treatment should be there like the XUV 700, where you don't realize where the screen starts and where the glass ends, or vice versa. You get telescopic and tilt functionality for the steering wheel, but honestly, there are some design elements which stick out so much that you are not even able to focus the features and the other things that this car has to offer. So I am a little irritated by all of these things, specifically that housing for the infotainment and the instrument cluster, because that gloss black is just a sore thing to look at, because there should be a glass treatment. Now the infotainment system is a thing of beauty. I absolutely love the Hyundai and the Kia infotainment system because nothing comes close to it. It's so nicely responsive. You can control the air conditioning through it and everything. And when I say everything about this car and the features you can control the infotainment system, from the ambient lighting to the phone projection to actually having voice memos to obviously Android and Apple CarPlay connectivity, inbuilt map and navigation, and obviously you can get the Google Maps as well. There are sounds of nature, which is again a very common thing nowadays in the Hyundai and Kia, and with the Bose system, the sounds of nature feel otherworldly. Trust me, sounds of nature might be underappreciated, but it's a good thing to have. You get driver assistance settings through the infotainment cluster. You can change the brightness and the themes of the instrument cluster and the infotainment through the screen itself. So you can just change the colors of that instrument cluster, which still does not suffice my expectations. It just should have been different modes which let you go from digital to analog and so on and so forth. You can see that it's changed from just pink to red and then red to blue and so on and so forth. Still, instrument cluster is definitely a no. You can go to general settings, which house simple system information, vehicle information and all of that. The screen is bright, unlike the Hondas. The screen is responsive, and they're in another league altogether. So definitely a 10 on 10 in terms of infotainment. Now the AC vents are nicely done. They are almost inconspicuous, but vehicle में ना एक और चीज़ दिखाता हूँ. So lights, you get ambient lighting, which is not specific to some colors. If you go to the color, you have an open palette of shades. When you select set custom color, look at the range of colors that you have. Hyundai really woke up and chose war against Mercedes, so it's really nice. You get ambient lighting store right there. So if I change the colors, you can see, like if I've turned it to pink, you can see that pink color showing up right there on the dashboard. It's just crazy how many features you can get in a 15 to 20 lakh rupees car if you're investing in a Hyundai. Now, the dashboard still does not feel very amazing to me because there are a lot of angles to it, and that's just simple basic instrument cluster stuff. Now let's move ahead to the other things. You get simple hazard lamp button, and the dashboard overall has a lot of angles and a lot of things going on which are not easy to the eye. There's a little height change, and then there are so many angles, it's tilting some place, and there's no depth in the dashboard. Everything is just haphazard, which I do not like. For these controls, the bad part is that these are touch sensitive buttons, but you still get good, very nicely done knobs and regulators, rotatable. And that button that you see above the right knob is to change the functionality from HVAC controls to infotainment controls, which is so cool. It is amazing. You get heated seats and cooled seats because this is the topmost variant. You get a wireless phone charger, a Type-C USB socket, a USB socket and a 12-volt socket which is stored inside, so that looks very neat. You get a very nicely done gear knob which is a CVT, that's a manual handbrake, and you get a center console armrest which does not house the air purifier. Is this even a Hyundai? You get a cool glove box in terms of ergonomics, and that's the door which is closed, and you get ambient lighting right here, which I forgot to actually mention last time around. So you get the same ambient lighting on the door pads as well. You get mirror on the sun visor of the co-driver side, but is there a mirror here? Yes, there is a mirror on the driver side sun visor as well. So that's a nice thing if you actually want to just look at a face when you're parked and do not look at a face while you're driving, you get an auto dimming IRVM with blue link SOS button, which is seen in other Hyundais as well. You get LED treatment, white treatment for the cabin lamps, and this sunroof button is very nice. You don't get one touch operation for the sunroof, but the blinds are manual, and the area when it opens is actually rather small, but that shouldn't be the problem because you are not allowed to put your head out of the sunroof. So please make a note of it. It's very dangerous. Don't do that. You can also tilt the sunroof in order to just have ventilation. But yes, the sunroof is still on the smaller side. And that is for most of the features that I want to talk about in the Hyundai Verna. You get a gear knob which is very nicely done. It feels very sporty to hold, and it's a CVT. Of course, it's a 7-speed CVT. You get manual handbrake with 2 cup holders. So manual handbrake is because this is naturally aspirated one. The turbo ones get the electric parking handbrake. You get adjustability for the seat belts, and this brown piping caramelish color with the beige is very nice. The seat is genuinely very comfortable. The bolstering is crazy here. It's one of the best seats in this segment, definitely. The Hyundai Verna and the Honda City are very close in terms of comfort, which is actually a step up for the new Hyundai Verna because previously I felt that the seats were a little stiff and the space was definitely low, which is definitely not the case in this one because the wheelbase has increased, so space has obviously increased. Now for the safety features, the best part is that you get 6 airbags as standard across the variant lineup, so you don't have to upgrade for that. You get ABS with EBD, you get ISOFIX child mounts obviously, and hill start assist control, electronic stability control, vehicle stability management, the tire pressure monitoring system. But just one point, it gets the ADAS suite but misses on the adaptive cruise control because that's specific to the turbo petrol automatic, so you don't get in the naturally aspirated automatic. But for the engine now, the heart of it, forgive me because this is dirty because this is a test drive car, so it gets driven day in day out. This is the naturally aspirated 1.5 petrol which puts out 115 horsepower as compared to the 1.5 turbo petrol which produces 160 horsepower. And the naturally aspirated one gets mated to a manual and a CVT transmission, whereas the 1.5 turbo petrol gets mated to either a manual or a 7-speed DCT transmission. But this one is the SX optional 1.5 naturally aspirated CVT option. As for the pricing, it gets a little too complicated because of the variants and the engines and the transmissions, but I'll still try to capture everything. If you're talking about the features, the SX variant should suffice because SX option is just overkill with some additional features here and there like the ADAS suite, ventilated seats and heated seats. Obviously, you get soft touch dashboard specific to the optional variant, and the leather upholstery is something that actually can change your decision from SX to SX optional because that seems to be really important if you are actually going for such an important car because aftermarket fittings are just not that great, let's be honest. But in terms of the options for engine and the transmission, now this SX optional petrol automatic costs 16,20,000 ex showroom. I would say that if you are going for a naturally aspirated petrol, might as well just save your money and go for a manual because that would be a joy to drive. And it's not just a joy to drive, it's also joy for your savings as well because the petrol manual for the same variant will cost you around 1465, which is a drop of 1,53,000 ex showroom. If you factor in the insurance and the RTO cost, it will be almost around 2 lakh rupees. So that's a massive difference. And that's for the same car. It's just the difference between a manual or a CVT transmission. If you are an enthusiast and looking at the automatic transmission of the naturally aspirated, no, don't go for that. Go for the same variant if you're actually sticking to the SX optional, but go for the turbo petrol with the manual transmission because that's the best configuration that you can get. The increased power and output of the turbo petrols with the manual transmission offer is just a beauty, and you get to save 20,000 since the turbo petrol manual costs around 16 lakhs ex showroom, whereas the SX optional automatic naturally aspirated petrol is around 16,20,000. But overall speaking, if you're specifically in the market for an automatic and you cannot spend a whopping price tag for the turbo petrol automatic, which gets you exactly everything which Verna has to offer, go for the naturally aspirated automatic because that should be idealistic for you. But if you are an enthusiast and you don't have any problem driving a manual whatsoever and you want all the features, definitely go for a turbo petrol manual. But there is a catch to it. If you actually are very keen on getting the adaptive cruise control, that's very specific to the turbo petrol automatic, so you'll have to go to the top end of almost everything. So yeah, that was my take on the Hyundai Verna SX optional variant. Do let me know in the comments what do you think about this car, and which car would you want me to cover next. Subscribe to our channel for more such content, and let me know if you are actually looking to buy a Hyundai and want any further assistance in terms of me helping you out which engine or transmission or variant should you go for based on your budget and your requirements. So just drop a comment about that. Keep watching Throttle Up.